It's April 18th, 1955. Albert Einstein, the man who changed the very fabric of space and time, has just passed away in Princeton, New Jersey. He was 76 years old. The plan was simple. His last wish was clear: to be cremated quietly with no publicity, no fame, no monuments. He wanted his body to return to nature, to become just another part of the universe he spent his life studying. Early that morning, his body lay in a cold, dimly lit room inside Princeton Hospital, waiting to be prepared for cremation. But what happened next was something Einstein never wanted. Because that morning, a single man's decision would change the course of science, and perhaps cross the line between genius and madness. Dr. Thomas Harvey, the pathologist on duty, stood over Einstein's lifeless body. He had performed hundreds of autopsies before, but this one was different. Before him lay the brain of the greatest scientific mind who ever lived, the man who gave us relativity, the man whose thoughts changed how we understand the universe. Harvey quietly performed the autopsy. Everything went according to plan, until he reached Einstein's skull. At that moment, curiosity overpowered ethics. Without permission, without informing Einstein's family, Dr. Harvey made a shocking decision. He carefully removed Einstein's brain and kept it. It wasn't an accident, it was deliberate. He believed that studying Einstein's brain might reveal the physical secret behind genius, that somewhere inside those folds of gray matter was the answer to humanity's greatest mystery. What makes a mind extraordinary? Einstein's body, without its brain, was cremated later that day. His ashes were scattered secretly as he wished. But no one knew that a part of him was missing. The world mourned the greatest physicist of the 20th century, unaware that his brain had just begun a journey of its own. Days later, Einstein's family found out, and they were furious. But Harvey convinced Einstein's son, Hans Albert, that his intentions were purely scientific. He promised that he'd study the brain only for research, never for fame or profit. Reluctantly, the family agreed. What they didn't know was that Dr. Harvey had no research team, no funding, no lab, just his obsession. He photographed the brain, weighed it, and then sliced it into 240 small pieces. Each thin section was preserved in chemicals and sealed in glass jars. He sent tiny samples to scientists around the world, hoping someone could find the source of Einstein's genius. But years passed, and the mystery deepened. Harvey lost his medical license, his job, and even his family. But one thing he never lost was the brain. He kept it hidden, moving it from place to place, from his office to his home, and even inside a beer cooler in the trunk of his old Buick. For decades, Einstein's brain traveled thousands of miles across America, from Kansas to California, all because one man couldn't let go. It sounds insane, doesn't it? The brain of the most brilliant man in history, stored in jars, carried in a car trunk. But for Harvey, it was a mission. Maybe even redemption. Then, in 1985, 30 years after Einstein's death, the first real research was finally published, and what scientists found was extraordinary. Einstein's parietal lobes, the parts of the brain linked to math, logic, and spatial imagination, were 15% wider than normal. He also had an unusual pattern in the Sylvian fissure, the groove that separates parts of the brain, giving him more surface area for neural connections. Some studies found he had more glial cells, the brain's support cells that help neurons fire faster. Could this explain his genius? Maybe. But even then, the results were controversial, because science still couldn't define why someone becomes a genius. You could study every cell in Einstein's brain and still not find the secret of imagination. Harvey lived the rest of his life in quiet obscurity. He never made money from Einstein's brain. He never got the fame he thought he'd find. In the 1990s, a journalist rediscovered him, and the story went public. By then, Harvey was an old man living in Kansas, still keeping Einstein's brain pieces in jars wrapped in newspaper. Eventually, before his death, Harvey returned the remaining parts to Princeton Hospital. Today, small sections of Einstein's brain are displayed at the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia, a haunting relic of human curiosity. But here's the twist. After decades of research, scientists now believe Einstein's true genius wasn't in his anatomy, it was in his way of thinking. He visualized complex ideas as pictures, not numbers. He imagined riding a beam of light through space. He saw time as a landscape that could bend and warp. Einstein once said, Imagination is more important than knowledge. And maybe that was the real secret. His brain didn't just think, it dreamed. Even in death, his story continues to challenge us. Was Dr. Harvey's act an act of science or theft? Was it respect or obsession? Maybe both. Because Einstein wanted to disappear into the universe, but instead his brain became a symbol of how far humans will go to chase the mystery of genius. And that's the irony of it all. The man who revealed the deepest laws of reality, who explained how space and time themselves bend, became the subject of another mystery, one that still has no clear answer. So the next time you hear the name Albert Einstein, remember this. His greatest mystery wasn't what he discovered, but what we did with his brain after he was gone.